Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. We meet two students, young Derry and his sister Patricia, who are driving home, returning from college for the holidays. It's a long way home, the road is mostly deserted, and they entertain themselves as best they can, sometimes reading out the numbers of passing cars and transforming them into their own jokes, then teasing each other and speeding up to overtake the car ahead. Suddenly, a small truck appears behind their car, moving at high speed, and starts honking furiously and pretending to ram the car. Derry is trying to signal for it to overtake, but the truck driver keeps honking and making crazy maneuvers. Finally, when Derry gets into the opposite lane, the truck overtakes the students and drives away. The frightened young people let out some curses after the truck is gone, and then they remember that on the same highway, although hundreds of miles away, they encountered the car of the graduates Kenny and Darla, but their heads couldn't be found. This incident, which happened about 20 years ago, has even become a local legend. After driving a little further, they see an old, dilapidated house near the road, and next to it is the small truck that frightened them so much. Near the house, they see a strangely dressed man who takes something from the truck that looks like a man wrapped in a white sheet with red stains and throws it into a large pipe protruding from the ground. Derry and Patricia find this somewhat sinister and try to call the police, but their cell phone is dead. The truck starts chasing them, and this time, it repeatedly hits their car, with no intention of overtaking them. Derry veers off the road and enters a field, and the truck leaves them alone, continuing ahead on the highway. After examining the damage to the car, and making sure they can still drive it, Derry suggests going back to help the person thrown into the pipe if he is still alive. Patricia is against it, but Derry persuades her. The two cautiously drive back to the mysterious house, and as they approach, they discover that the place is an abandoned church full of crows. The two carefully approach the pipe, which leads somewhere into a dark underground room, where a foul smell emanates. Derry seems to see and hear something, and despite his sister's objection, the foolhardy man enters with her holding his feet. Then he sees rats, gets scared, starts kicking his legs, and Patricia, who was holding his feet at that moment, can't hold on and lets go. The fool falls to the bottom of the well, unable to climb back up. After saying he's okay, he sees a body wrapped in cloths, and that moves slightly. Derry approaches and is startled when touched on the legs. Derry tears the cloth and sees a person near death there, whose stomach has been cut open and sewn with iron wires. The man tries to say something, but after a convulsion, he dies. Derry sends Patricia to urgently seek help, and he begins to look for a way out, believing he is in the church's basement. The guy discovers dozens of corpses and various strange devices in the basement, then realizes that the entire ceiling and walls are covered with hundreds of fixed bodies, and among them, those of Kenny and Darla, managing to identify them by the ring. Patricia sees the truck approaching and panics, unable to start the car. However, the approaching truck is not the one that tormented them before. Patricia is scared again when Derry suddenly appears, having come out of the basement. He is silent and in shock. Patricia drives the car, and the siblings enter a small local town. Before entering a restaurant, they watch the rusty truck returning to the church. After entering the restaurant, they ask to contact the police. Suddenly, the phone rings, and an unknown woman describes Derry's appearance, as well as the fact that he managed to find the place under the church with the bodies, saying that place belongs to the creature and that no one knows where it comes from. The woman also listens to the song Jeepers Creepers, mentioning that Derry should run when he hears it next time. Then Derry tells everything to the police, but they are skeptical of his testimony, and even Patricia doesn't believe him much, especially when Derry mentions 500 or 600 bodies sewn together. When the students return to the car, they find it open, as if someone had been there, and their clothes rummaged through. This is witnessed, and the waitress said she saw a strange man there, sniffing the siblings' clothes. They also see fingerprints on the car handle, and now the police are taking Derry's testimony more seriously. They are all going to the church together. Derry and Patricia, discussing what happened, cannot understand how a person could drive to the church and back in such a short time. The police in their car receive the information that the church is on fire, there are firefighters, and it is still not possible to approach. They also discover that the prints on the car belong to a dead man. Then they hear that something landed on the patrol car. While the siblings talk, A humanoid creature with an axe kills the policeman following the young ones and throws one of their heads onto Derry's car windshield. After slamming the brakes, the siblings exit the car and see the police car stopped. Patricia goes to take a look and sees a monster resembling a human in the cabin and a policeman's head on the road. Sitting back in their car, the siblings watch as the monster exits the patrol car whistling, picks up the head, smells it, and then eats the tongue. Derry and Patricia drive away, and the monster puts the policemen's bodies in his truck. Patricia notices a house on the way and decides to approach it. There is a woman with many cats living in the house. She attends to them, but soon sees the monster near the house. The lady points a gun at him, demanding he leave. However, the monster does not react at first. When he moves, the woman fires. The creature, being quick, dodges and sneaks into the house. The old lady goes in to check, leaving the young ones outside. 2 shots are fired inside the house, and after that, Derry observes the lady standing motionless at one of the windows. In fact, it is the monster that has grabbed her and is holding her by the neck, then throws her away and goes for the siblings, and they escape by car. The creature jumps onto their hood, but they manage to throw it off, reversing. Then, they charge to hit the monster, who easily leaps over the car. However, they try again and finally manage to hit the monster. To make sure, Patricia runs over the fallen monster several times. Next, they see a wing appear on the back of the apparently crushed monster, flapping slowly until it falls. After running over the creature once more, the young ones head to the nearest town. Derry and his sister go to the police station and from their call home, promising to arrive in a few hours. A woman named Jess enters the station calling the siblings by their names. She is considered a local seer and is the one who called the restaurant. She says that every 23 springs, and for 23 days, the monster wakes up and starts eating the organs of people it likes. These organs replace its own, and it also loves the smell of fear. Despite what they manage to survive, the siblings do not believe what they are told. The monster, who arrived in the truck limping a little, goes to the location and turns off the light. The siblings panic, saying they ran over this monster many times and he could not possibly survive. Jess says that apparently the monster ate many hearts to die so easily. A policeman checking the cells in the absence of light sees the bars are broken in one of them, and the monster, who has taken off its clothes, is eating one of the prisoners. After that, the creature attacks the policeman. The police are trying to evacuate Patricia and Derry to a safe location. A squad of policemen tracking a monster loses it when it runs up the wall to the second floor, where the young ones are. On the way, the monster tears out the heart of another policeman. Jess tries to stop the monster with a prayer, while Patricia and Derry escape to the next floor, but it doesn't help. The thing doesn't like her smell, so it leaves her alive. The students run to the interrogation room, but there is no way out. The monster watches them through the mirrored glass and then enters the room. It grabs them and sniffs them, but Derry has a more attractive smell to it, so it leaves Patricia behind. A squad of policemen storms the place, preparing to shoot. Patricia tries to persuade the creature to take her instead of her brother, but it opens its wings, breaks the window, and flies away with Derry. The girl then screams, looking at the empty sky. The next morning, a devastated Patricia is at the police station. Jess tells her that her parents have come to pick her up. Patricia asks what Jess really saw, and she replies that she's just a crazy old lady. Then, Patricia leaves, looking at the sky again, noticing a crow flying. It flies to an old abandoned factory building, where a bunch of other birds is already sitting, and it is possible to hear a song playing on the gramophone. The place is now where the monster lives, and it is doing something. We see a skin hanging, it being Derry's skin with empty holes instead of eyes, through which the monster looks, now with Derry's eyes. Sometime later, it is explained about the creature known as the Creeper. It is a supernatural creature resembling a bat that appears every 23 years to feed on humans for 3 consecutive weeks, having the ability to regenerate by eating human organs. 23 years later, we see a boy setting up scarecrows in the middle of a cornfield. His father, Jack, reminds him to tie the scarecrows carefully. Suddenly, their dog barks, signaling imminent danger. Apparently, the creeper is secretly stalking the boy while pretending to be a scarecrow. The creeper moves, and the boy becomes intrigued by it, so the boy goes to check the creeper. Upon noticing the creature's filthy feet, the boy immediately runs away in fear. The creeper then flies and chases him as he runs and screams for help. In a few moments, the creeper manages to grab him. Jack and his eldest son hear the commotion. They then go to the cornfield to find the boy, who is screaming desperately for help as the creeper drags him away. The creeper instantly flies off with the boy, leaving them powerless. The next day is the 23rd day, the last day of the creeper's feeding period. An excited bus full of student athletes is traveling down a highway in the same area as the cornfield. The athletes are celebrating their recent championship victory. While they are enjoying the ride, the bus suddenly stops along the way. The driver gets out to check the bus and finds the tire slashed. She then finds a sharp shuriken blade that caused the tire's destruction. The coach picks up the blade and discovers that it is made of bones, which scares him. Meanwhile, the students hear the radio broadcast about the excavation of the church ruins, which serves as a monument to the creeper's victims. Apparently, the authorities have found hundreds of preserved bodies, which are sewn into the ceiling of the ruins. All the bodies are missing a part or an organ. The authorities believe that some of the bodies are 200 years old. In the cornfield, Jack's eldest son, named Junior, is with his dog and finds the creeper's dagger on the ground. He then runs back home, reporting the dagger he found to his father, who is still mourning the loss of his youngest son. The dagger appears to be made of human skin. Jack holds it, and it suddenly flies away. He then realizes that it has the telepathic ability to return to the creeper. With this, he gets an idea to make a harpoon with it to hunt the creeper, as this would allow the harpoon to automatically hit the creature. At this point, he is determined to seek revenge on the creeper for taking his son. Back on the bus, the driver tries to use the radio to call for help but has no signal. The coaches also try to use their phones but to no avail. Eventually, the driver decides to continue driving despite the flat tire. At night, one of the student athletes on the bus, Minxie, starts to dream. In her dream, the creeper's previous victim, Derry, points in the opposite direction of the bus. It seems like he is warning her that there is danger ahead of them. The boy also appears, warning her to turn back. The creeper then appears, running quickly towards the bus and throws a shuriken towards it. Minxie wakes up from the dream as a shuriken hits the tire in reality. The tire is completely destroyed, leaving them stranded on the highway in the middle of nowhere. Moments later, a car passes by, and the coach informs them to seek help if they see a highway patrol. The coach lights a flare in the middle of the road, signaling that they need help, while the driver checks the tire and finds another shuriken. This time, it was made from Derry's navel. The coach is placing some flares on the road when suddenly, he is taken by the creature. The student athletes are confused about what happened to the coach as they did not see him being taken by the creature. The driver then instructs everyone to get on the bus because of the possible danger, while she searches for the missing coach. In a few moments, the creeper also instantly takes her away. The scene left the student athletes stunned. The other coach then orders everyone to stay inside the bus, when soon the creeper suddenly appears and grabs him too. A student athlete, Scott, tries to pull him back, but to no avail. After that, they frantically close the door to keep themselves safe. Scott then describes the creeper to his fellow athletes, who wonder where the creature went. Meanwhile, Jack learns from the radio about kidnapping cases in their area. This signals to him that the creeper must be lurking at that moment. Back on the bus, the nerdy student, Andy, keeps trying to call for help over the radio, but there's no response. The student athletes find a spear and a flare gun, and plan to use them as weapons to defend themselves. Scott suggests they run to the barn in the middle of the field. His girlfriend disagrees, afraid that the creeper might appear again when they leave the bus. The other student athletes also disagree, leaving Scott frustrated with them. Amidst the argument, Minxie sees the creeper's ugly face at the emergency door. The student athletes also notice this. They then hide in the bus seats. The creeper senses their fear and begins to scare them. He then gives some kind of signal to Dante, Scott, Minxie, Andy, and David. It seems that the creeper has identified them as his next victims. The creeper then starts shaking the bus, and a screw falls from the emergency door. After the creeper flies away, Minxie suddenly faints. She starts dreaming of the creeper in the middle of the cornfield. In her dream, Derry appears saying incoherent words. He then warns her that the creeper appears every 23 springs to eat humans for 23 days. His eyes suddenly disappear, and Minxie wakes up from the dream. Upon waking up, Minxie warns them that the creeper has chosen some of them as his next victims, and he will continue to haunt them. She says that the creeper has until dawn, and only then will he return after 23 years, and haunt people again. She says that the creeper chooses them through their fears and target body parts. Fearful of this, Andy desperately tries to call for help again over the radio. Meanwhile, Jack and his eldest son are wandering the highway to find the creeper. They find the previously wrecked car. Jack inspects it, and its driver seems to be a victim of the creeper. The son receives the radio from Andy, asking for help. Jack takes the radio and tells Andy that they are heading to the bus location, but it may take a while. After that, they start driving to the bus location. Upon learning that rescue is on the way, the student athletes celebrate. At that moment, the creeper appears again and breaks the bus roof. He then grabs Andy's head through the roof hole. To save him, the girl uses the spear and stabs the creeper in the head. This allows the student athletes to drag Andy away from him. The spear stays in the creeper's head, and the creeper tries to remove it. He manages to remove the spear, but his head is severely injured in return. The creeper then reveals himself, revealing his severed head. He flies into the sky, but injured, eventually falls back, hitting the bus roof, and the impact shatters the glass windows. The student athletes wonder if he is dead. Scott decides it's their chance to escape from the bus. But the main door doesn't open, and they find out that the creeper deliberately destroyed the emergency door. They then realize that the creeper wants to trap them inside the bus. His wing falls inside the bus, and Dante plays with it. The wing suddenly moves, trapping him inside it. The creeper starts pulling him, and the students try to drag him back, but Dante ends up having his head cut off. His body remains inside the bus, while the creeper keeps his head. David grabs the flare gun from Dante's pocket. The girl takes a look inside the bus and sees the creeper removing his head. He then throws his head, and Dante's head emerges from his stomach. The creeper now uses Dante's head as his own, and flies away. Scott forcefully opens the door, and decides to separate the creeper's target from the rest of the group. Help is on the way, but he thinks it might take too long. He then wants the creeper's target to leave the bus, to keep the others safe. David gets angry with him, and points out that he was also among the creeper's targets. David convinces the others to leave the bus, so that selfish Scott can have the bus to himself. They all leave the bus, and Scott follows them outside. One student remains inside the bus and locks its door. They then see the creeper flying nearby, so they run back to the bus. However, its door is locked. With no choice, they all run through the middle of the field. The creeper throws a shuriken, hitting a student athlete in the head, instantly killing him. Meanwhile, the others continue to run. The creeper throws a dagger, and hits Scott's arms, pinning him to a tree. David and the student athletes come to remove the dagger, to free him. David manages to remove it, but the creeper instantly drags Scott away. Meanwhile, the student and his friend remain inside the bus. Andy sneaks in, and the creeper appears, grabbing him. But he shifts his attention to Jack, who has just arrived at the scene with his son. Jack fires the harpoon and hits the creeper as it flies away. In an attempt to escape, the creeper drags back their car, which is attached to the harpoon. The creeper manages to remove the harpoon, causing it to fall back onto their car. Fortunately, it doesn't hit the son, who is inside the car. Jack prepares the harpoon again, while the creeper prepares to attack them back. The creeper approaches them, and Jack shoots the harpoon, hitting it again. But it remains alive and flies away, still connected to the harpoon. The harpoon's rope cuts through the bus roof and drags back the car. The rope disconnects, allowing the creeper to fly freely. Meanwhile, David and his friend find a wrecked vehicle. The friend finds the key inside, and they take the car. They see the creeper approaching, so they drive the car in panic. The creeper quickly chases after their slow car, wanting David, who is in the back of the car. David fires the flare gun at the creeper, briefly stopping it. But the creature is too fast and still catches up to them. The friend, compelled to find a way to save David, pushes the girl out of the car. He then abruptly stops the car, causing the fast creeper to ram through the car. It flips over, but everyone manages to survive. David, partially injured, gets up and finds the creeper's broken wing. The car explodes, causing the nearby creeper to rise. It senses David's foul hormones and tries to chase him. However, it realizes its limbs are broken. Despite its wounded state, it manages to leap towards David. Seeing it approach, David shoots at it with the flare gun. However, the creeper still manages to land on top of David and tries to devour him. To save himself, David uses all his strength to fend it off. While the creeper desperately tries to bite him, Jack arrives at the scene and shoots the monster with the harpoon. The creeper tries to move with the severe state. Jack stabs it, making it groan in agony. Jack continues to stab it repeatedly, angry for taking his youngest son away. The thing soon bleeds to death and casts a piercing gaze at Jack, as its body slowly folds. The creeper soon folds into a cocoon and stops moving. Minxie says the creeper is not dead yet. It just stopped moving because its time is up. So Jack stabs it again and says that it looks dead to him. The surviving athletes show trauma on their faces. But fortunately, they finally regroup after the horrifying events. The movie ends 23 years later. The creeper is about to come back to life. It turns out Jack kept the creeper's body and made a monument with it. He turned the monument into a paid tourist spot for curious people to see. He described the creeper as a giant bat coming from the depths of hell. One day, a group of teenagers visits the area and pays $5 each to the adult son. They then enter the barn and find the creeper's body on the wall. Old Jack sits next to his harpoon, pointed at the creeper. The teenagers interview him, and he narrates how he killed it, using his harpoon. At that moment, he says he's waiting there for 3 more days. Apparently, the 23rd day of spring is coming again, and the creeper will come back to life, according to legend. In the end, old Jack awaits the creature's rebirth, hoping to have the chance to kill it once again with his harpoon.